what happens with all the stress happening in our environment is something stressful happens. Someone says something to you, you get fired from a job, suddenly you're not able to cope. What happens is that external stress happens and it pushes your buttons, and up comes that old pattern, that old cell memory, that old way of reacting to stress. And so it's very essential that if we're wanting to cope with current stress, that we clear it out at its root, that we get to the emotional root cause of what has created this stress response over all these years. Because this isn't the first time you felt anxiety. This isn't the first time you felt worry in your life or had this pattern of stressing. What happens is, all that happens is these external stresses push those buttons, and the internally buried emotional programming rises up. I mean, it can be this simple thing like you are driving in a car and just going along the motorway or the highway, and suddenly a car cuts you off, and out of nowhere comes this rage. Now, that driver didn't come in the middle of the night and stick the rage inside of you. That rage was already buried there. And that all that happened is they pushed your buttons, and involuntarily and automatically, up comes the rage. And in order to finally get to the bottom of what's co-creating the stress in our life, the agoraphobia, the OCD, times that we feel painfully stressed, ideally we would undergo a journey process, which is an in-depth process where you roll up your sleeves and you dive in and you open into this infinite intelligence, into the part of you that makes your heart beat and your eyes shine and your hair grow. This that is your deepest essence. And there at the level of the soul, you'll be guided by this infinite intelligence to specific cellular locations inside your body. And you will go through a deep process of release, letting go, understanding, forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And so if I had to say, what is the journey in a nutshell? The best way I could describe it to you is to give you a metaphor. That we, all of us, come into this world as this radiant, shining presence of peace, of love, feeling at one and connected to all of existence as a vast field of awareness. And we come in feeling that all of life is happening in us, is part of us. As a matter of fact, what science has said, when you are born as an infant, so newly born, and you are experiencing life as this field of love, when mother's hand comes before your eyes, the infant actually feels mother's hand to be part of itself. That's how vast this vast open field of enlightened awareness is. That is your essence. But unfortunately, through the course of life's pains and trials, this radiant field of feeling at one with everything, this peace, it gets covered over with a series of pain, trauma, shutdowns, lies, limitations. And it can be something simple, like you're 3 years old and you happen to be crying about something and your mother says, come on, got to dry the tears. We've got to get to nursery school. And the younger you get it, oh, I'm not allowed to have those feelings, at least not the ones with the tears. And the first involuntary automatic shutdown happens. Or it could be something simple, like I can remember I grew up in a very domestically challenged household. Part of the way I used to escape was I would hide myself in my children's books. And of course, if you loved reading as much as I loved reading, you would become good at it. And I became good at reading and spelling. And when I was 8 years old in the third grade, our school decided to go into a competition with all the other schools in the area. So in the whole county, we were going to have a spelling bee. And I was chosen in our school to represent the third graders. And all the other schools came together, all the teachers, the parents in this stadium, or this big, huge auditorium. And all the teachers were there. And I'll never forget this. I can remember so clearly standing on stage and having spelled 3 difficult words. And then they gave me one of the easiest words in the English language, the word fleet. No one in any of the books that I had read had written the word fleet, but I had seen the word flea, a little insect. And I stood there and I said, F-L-E-A-T. And the whole audience was hushed. And all at once, it erupted into laughter. Now, no one had given me a manual. How do you deal with mass humiliation in front of your peers, your friends, the parents, the teachers, all the students? And I looked to my mom, who was sitting in the third row where the parents of the contestants were sitting. And I looked to her for support. And she looked at me as if I was the greatest disappointment in her life. And she just shook her head and went. And internally, it was as if this wall just came slamming down inside of me. And I remember retreating to the back of the room to go sit with the other losers. And that day I decided, I'm just so stupid. I'm a laughing stock. Everyone my whole life long will only ever laugh at me. I'll never be good at anything I'll do. I'll never succeed. And it's like this, layer upon layer. Then when we get to be adults, we cover this whole mess over with this polished mask that we present to the world. That we say to everyone, no, I'm reliable, I'm dependable, you can count on me. And then we wonder why it is everyone thinks we're so full of what? And then if you get to be very lucky, life gives you a wake-up call. Now, these wake-up calls can come in so many forms. They can come in the form of a loss of a loved one, a war taking place. It can come in the form of not even having the skills of how to cope with what's going on in the world. And in my case, it came in the form of a serious illness, where for once you decide to get real and you crack through this mask that you've been presenting to the world. And spontaneously, you end up opening down through the layers of the lies, the shutdowns, the pain, all the traumas. And spontaneously, you eventually open into this vast field of love that you came in as. And you realize it's been there all along. Only like me, you bought into all the layers that covered it. And if you're very lucky, you fall so in love with your own essence, with your own soul, that like me, you will do anything to clear whatever blocks you, whatever shuts you down, whatever stresses you out, whatever holds you back. So this radiant love can live your life. This peace, this ease of being that is your essence that has always been there. So if I had to say, what is the journey? It's about getting real. It's about cracking through this image that we present to the world and opening down through the layers of the pain, shutdown, traumas, lies, limitations that we bought into, and eventually opening into this that I call source, into this vast field of love that is your essence. And it's at that deepest level, at the level of the infinite intelligence, that you are guided by your soul to go to certain cellular locations in your body to uncover what's actually stored there, uncover these old traumas, uncover this old pain, uncover whatever cell memory you couldn't cope with at the time that got buried inside your body. And through this gentle but powerful clearing process, you not only release what's stored there, you understand it. And something radical happens when you forgive finally. When you forgive life for what took place, other people, yourself, somehow when full forgiveness happens, that's when you finally let go of this whole story, this whole consciousness, this programming, these whole cell memory, this whole pattern that you've been running. You finally let go of it. So that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old programming as new regenerative cells, free from the past.